Hi, my name is Stephanie Hoi-Nga. I am a holistic parent coach. I look at a person as a whole. I help them to develop a deeper understanding about themselves, about their mind and their body, so they can provide emotional well-being and safety for the children, so they can grow and thrive together. In the wake of the pandemic, many parents are overwhelmed. I help them to release stress and help them to self-regulate, which helps co-regulate with their children, so parents can take a pause before they react to their children's tantrums. Today, I'm very excited to get to have a conversation with my guest, Phil Wilkins. Phil heads up community engagement, social determinants of health at ModivCare. ModivCare is a company that provides patient transportation, meal delivery, personal in-home care, and personal monitoring devices. Phil used to be a multi-unit franchisee, a speaker, and a diversity consultant as well. He's based in Atlanta. Phil is a father to 3 athletic sons. Thank you for coming on, Phil.
Thank you, Stephanie. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been following Phil's LinkedIn posts recently. There was one post that caught my attention. Now, Phil, you wrote about what you've learned from your eldest son, Jordan, and you talked about how being a dad has helped you become a better leader. So I was really intrigued because I often learn from my son, Julian. He's only 9. He reminded me of what I was like before, and he says and does things that surprises me and my husband all the time. There's always something that I can learn from children that we often lost as we grow older. But being a parent, like parenting has an impact on how you lead people at work too. That's really interesting. But before we get that, let's talk about the big lessons that you learned from your children and as a dad.
Well, thanks, Stephanie. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I think, being a father really has helped me become a better leader. And when I think about, when you have a child, all you want is the best for that child, right? No matter what. And so I may not tell them exactly what they want to hear, but I'm going to tell them and share with them what they need to hear. And I think, I look at my employees not so much as a child, but just as a person that I want to succeed. I want them to succeed. And so if I take that same mentality and mindset into that leadership position where I want you to succeed, Stephanie, I'm going to share with you, what I feel you really need in order to excel at your job, whether you really want to hear about it or not. I owe that to you, to pull the best out of you. I also owe it to you to push you past what you might see for yourself. And I think a lot of times, I don't want the boys to settle, for just being comfortable. Hey, you know what? You can do more. You can have more without being so, domineering, but just like you can see potential in people. And I think with our sons and with our teams, you can definitely see how people have potential, and you can tap into that and ask them, to really push to excel. And so I tend to hold, our children and my teams to high standards, and I want them to really become comfortable in striving for excellence and striving for that. And that's where the fun is on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, you talk about your son also surprises you, right? He's done things that you didn't expect him to do before. Then why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and how do you help him to
Well, I think, with any child, I think the one thing that we all have to respect is that they're all going to find their way. It might not be our path that we have chosen for them, but they are going to find our way. Our son realized probably, and after a couple of concussions playing football, that school just wasn't for him. At this point, that's okay. Let's focus on what, you do want to do. Let's find those passions that do exist within you, and let's do those things. Because in today's environment, I think as we all are learning, college isn't for everyone. And there's a lot of people who have been very, very successful that haven't necessarily gone down that path. But, the way I was raised, it was, you're going to go to school. I'm sure the way a lot of, families are, is like, you're going to go to school, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, whatever the case may be. And that's not necessarily the way that kids are today. They're not just going to fall into alignment. And so I think, in order for them to really find their true self, you've got to give them that flexibility to find their way, and then help them along that path, and from that perspective, I think he's taught me a lot in regards to just being more patient, I think, because everyone's on their own journey and everyone has their own race. He's going to be fine. It's typically that one that, is a little lag behind that the other folks end up working for,
It's interesting you say that. I mean, it's so hard for parents to let go, right? To just just be okay with the kids don't want to go to college, because it's almost like the world, we all think that college is the way to be, the way to go to have that success, right? So how do you even, I mean, was there a process where you have to, I can see that he doesn't like it, and somehow in yourself, it's not, you have to accept it. I mean, how do you get to that point? Or
it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And I can't say, it's great. I mean, I fought it. I really wanted him to go. I, probably kept him in there for longer than he probably should have been. And, but yet at the same time, I think as parents, we do have to look at it and see, like, is he comfortable there? Is he thriving there? And if he's not comfortable and he's not thriving, is that going to damage and impact his self-esteem long-term? Right. And it's hard, to continue to fail, to do something that you don't want to do because you're trying to make your parents happy and you're not living your life. Right. You're setting them up for failure. Now, I would love for him to go back to school, get his degree, do his thing, but he's going to determine that on his own time frame. Now, especially he's a man. It's like, look, but I think what I can do as a parent, even now, is really show him, here's what you're capable of. You are capable of this, and you can be successful whether you choose to go back or not. And here's a path, that I think you can, where you can excel and do great. And I think he's finding that path. And I can see changes in him from a self-esteem perspective, and just, really feeling good about where he is right now. And I'm proud of that.
You seem to have a very deeper understanding about yourself. I mean, do you have to work on yourself, or do you get advice, or how do you get to that place when you're like, okay, I'm just going to guide him wherever he's comfortable with?
It's not easy. I remember when I lost my dad a number of years ago, but I remember one of the things that he said to me was, Philip, you need to find patience, right?
Yeah.
And I think especially with, our kids, we need to find patience. We need to be patient. And that's probably one area where I'm trying to create more patience and understanding. Not always good at it. There's definitely not always perfect at it, but I think that's one area where the boys have really taught me that, and then just to treat them like young men. I mean, they are young men. So it's like, the youngest is 18, the middle one is 24, and the oldest is 27. So it's like, they are young men, and I need to treat them as such, at this point. They're not teenage boys, but, just try to guide them the correct way.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love what you wrote before, which is like you helping your, say, Jordan to find his way and on his path and to be true to himself.
Correct.
And you recognize that he needed time to grow and evolve, and also to encourage you to take a few risks. So he coached him along the way too. Can tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm really proud of him from the standpoint that, he was, working a job where he was like delivering food to restaurants and stuff and driving a truck and all of that. And he, was making not, he wasn't making bad money doing it, but he made a decision that he really wanted to kind of transition into this real estate role, kind of help people who are relocating to Atlanta, find apartments and those kinds of things. And I think eventually he will gravitate to real estate, because I remember as a young boy, we used to go around and we would look at sites and he would understand, like, restaurant sites and what makes them work. Like, hey, Dad, that's a nice site because you can get in and out of it easy, and it's on the corner and it's got these traffic generators around. So he kind of grew up in that mindset. And so I think it's kind of a natural progression for him to kind of go slow. But what I learned and what I was really proud of is he took a substantial cut in pay, to take this second opportunity, this new opportunity, because it was more aligned with what he wanted to do, and where he saw himself evolving. And so I thought that was a very smart, mature approach. I'm not advocating go out and take a big pay cut, but if you can do that, and I can appreciate it, because when I made my transition from the corporate world to being an entrepreneur, I took a 70% cut in pay, but it was doing something that I truly loved to do. And there's no replacement for that. Work takes up so much of our time on a given day, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. If you don't love and aren't passionate about what you do, then you're going to rot on the vine, and we used to have a saying in the restaurants, if you're green, you're growing. And if you're ripe, you've already begun to rot. And so I applaud him for making that move to stay green and growing, and to take control like that.
Wow. Yeah. Now that's so much to learn as a dad, right? And then you're able to also bring that kind of philosophy, into workplace. And you talked a little bit earlier about how becoming a dad helped you become a good leader. Like give us a little bit more details on that, because being a dad can be quite different too, because there's like deep emotions involved with your own family, and being in the workplace is different. So how do you apply what you've learned as a dad in workplace as a leader?
Yeah, I think it's different from the standpoint that, obviously, there's not blood between us, but I have to care about my employees, like I have to care about their well-being. And I think in today's environment, employees want to know that you care. They want to know that you're going to do the right thing. And I think that's what makes, ModivCare such a great company, and Social Determinants something that, as a business owner, I wish I had a deeper understanding of, to be candid, when I was running my business, because there are so many things, Stephanie, that people deal with on a day-to-day basis that they just can't check at the door, right? It's hard to concentrate at work if you are hungry and your child is hungry and you're having a tough time paying your utility bills, or you can't take your medicine, right? And as a business owner, if someone would come in late or whatever, I was empathetic, but yet at the same time, I wasn't taking positive action in many ways. I was just saying, hey, listen, I feel your pain, but I got to run my business, and you're scheduled to be here at 11 o'clock and you're showing up at 12 o'clock, 12:30, and I can't run my business that way. Now that's true, right? But rather than let a person like that go and lose them, I really feel like today's entrepreneur and today's business owners and leaders really need to say, what's the root cause here? What's going on? And then let's connect you to the support group or the community-based organization that specializes in helping people that have problems like you have, go to them, go figure it out, go fix it, and come back and see me in 72 hours or 48 hours or whatever. And now I get to keep that employee and I don't lose that employee. And that's a very expensive cost for a business owner, is, you know, that employee turnover. And I think that builds a lot of loyalty with your employees if you are willing to take that time and build that trust and that confidence and say, you know what, I respect it. I've been there. I've gone through some things in life, you know, et cetera. And let me connect you to this community-based organization that can help you and help your family and get it fixed and come back. Who would not want to work, you know, for that type of leader and that type of organization? So I'm very, you know, proud of the work that we're doing here, but also, you know, I really would love to kind of spread that word about social determinants so that people really understand, you know, the impact that they could have on an employee and not lose, you know, an employee. So I think there's a lot of great wins on all of that, you know, for the employee, for the business owner, for the leader. And especially in today's environment, when you are talking about 3% unemployment as a leader, it's very hard. It's very difficult to attract new talent. So it's better probably to keep the existing talent that you have, even though they may be going through some issues, help them get it fixed, help them get it corrected and retain that talent and keep them loyal to your organization.
Sure, I think COVID has changed the workforce so much, like how remote work works.
Right. I mean, there's not an industry that COVID didn't touch.
Yeah, I mean, there was an article yesterday about how like employees get a new job and they leave in 3 months, or they start looking, or they never turn up. Like more and more people get the offers and they never turn up. But there's a lot of talk about like emotional intelligence, teaching leaders emotional intelligence. And yeah, you just touched on that. I mean, being empathetic. Also, it sounds like being really curious about what's going on in their personal life, because you can't fully be present at work if something's going on at home, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be curious to the standpoint where it's like, hey, what's going on in your personal life? Let me understand all your business. But, you know, if I see a downturn in performance, or, you know, if the employee comes to me and says, hey, can I talk to you about something? Then, you know, I want to be a confidant and a resource for that employee to, you know, help them get back on track. You know, ultimately, my ultimate goal is that employee, you know, performs at a high level and is fulfilled, you know, with their job. And, you know, ultimately that's the most that I can ask for. And, you know, so I don't want to pry and, you know, how's the relationship between you and, you know, your mother-in-law or whatever. No, we don't want to go there. But clearly if they're having some type of issue that's impacting their performance, you're going to see it. And I think you owe it to them, to your organization and yourself to, you know, to talk to them and just say, hey, you know, what do we need to do to get this corrected?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for all your sharing. I do think that, there's so much we can learn from you, just your idea and philosophy about being a leader, and how being a dad can really help you to become a better leader. And is there any advice or anything you want to share about the topic around that?
Yeah, you know, our goal, and I'll just say, you know, kind of like my role here at ModivCare and what we would love to do, heading up community engagement and social determinants of health. And I think, number one, a lot of people don't understand social determinants. So let me start there really briefly. Social determinants is where a person is born, lives, grow, works, age, that area, that zip code. What research has found, Stephanie, that's so phenomenal is that 80% of the health issues or health outcomes that a person may face may come from that zip code, you know, may come from that area where you work, live, play, grow, and age, right? So if that is in fact the case, then, what we used to think was that you were, predisposed genetically, but that's 20%. 80% are the factors that happen. And that's why you can look at a community or a city and see one neighborhood that has a life expectancy of 59 and another that has a life expectancy of 85. So social determinants, what we're trying to look at are all the different areas like social behavioral, access to healthcare, economics, food insecurity, education, neighborhood, those kinds of things, and really addressing those factors to help people improve their lives and, have longer life expectancy. And so that's something that we're doing. And then in addition, we're working very hard when we provide people transportation. We don't own those vehicles or that transportation arm. We actually hire or contract with local transportation providers, and we broker rides for them. So, we contract with the insurance companies. They call us. The patient calls us, needs a ride. We call the transportation company who's locally owned and operated in the communities in which we serve. And then they pick them up and they pick up the member and take them to their doctor's appointments and their appointments and those kinds of things. And it's really purpose-driven work, and so what we're trying to do now is get out into the communities that we serve and build relationships with those local communities through organizations like Chamber of Commerce's or business organizations or healthcare organizations. Those are some of the key contacts that we would love to make connections to. So if any of your viewers have those kind of relationships, they could either reach out to you, and I know you will share it with me, or they can reach out to me directly at phil.wilkins, WILKINS, at ModivCare, MODIVCARE.com. So we really appreciate that and appreciate being on your podcast.
Yeah, great. I'll also put your details on the LinkedIn post anyway. So
that would be great. That would be really good.
Yeah. Any final thoughts you want to share with us at all?
Well, I just think, being a parent is not a short-term burst. It's a long-term journey, right? And it's
like learning on the job.
And you're learning on the job, which is most difficult. And there's no blueprint for it. Every child is different. Every experience is different. And but it by far, it is the coolest job and the best job and the most important, most rewarding thing I've ever done and will ever do in my life. And I know you feel the same way. And it's challenging.
I agree. Yeah, it's challenging. Yeah. But it's so rewarding. It's definitely challenging. But right. And in the process, we learn so much about ourselves. And
as my father aged, I began to really see that he, the smarter he became, right? And so you as a child, as you grow and mature, you're like, oh, he's not as dumb as he looks, right? Like they're pretty smart, right? So those are just lessons that I think you learn, and with our sons, I think it's interesting as they are maturing. Our relationship, I think, is even improving that much more because they're trying to gain an understanding of, what is it like to be a man in the world today, and you've kind of walked through some things. Maybe you can help clear a path for me. So that's our goal.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I mean, I totally agree that the idea is, we it takes some time to get here because all these experiences just help us to be wiser, and then we can use that experiences to help our children.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Phil, for joining me. And
well, thank you for having me.